Hello everyone, my name is Shane Mitchell. We represent the science discipline. The main pedagogical approaches used in science include constructivism and inquiry-based learning. However, one particular beneficial pedagogical approach is project-based learning. PBL is an evidence-based approach directed towards student-centered learning. Through PBL, students pursue and construct knowledge by posing questions and address real-world challenges through inquiry-based learning. PBL begins with driving questions or challenges that stimulate a student's inquiry. It incorporates 21st century skills like collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. These skills enable the facilitation of an in-depth inquiry to allow students to explore the content. Students also have multiple opportunities to voice their opinions and drive their own feedback, which is then eventually shared with an audience. There are three key reasons for why PBL is a beneficial pedagogical approach for science education. These reasons include enhanced understanding, development of essential skills, and increased engagement. First, PBL enhances students' understanding of scientific content by engaging them in hands-on activities like lab experiments. Research has shown that PBL can significantly enhance academic achievement and learning experiences by engaging students in complex real-world tasks that require 21st century skills. Next, PBL helps students develop skills and characteristics that are essential for their future professions. These include debating ideas, making predictions, designing investigations, analysing data, developing explanations, and asking new questions. PBL incorporates students, teachers, and community members to collaboratively work together to solve real-world problems. Lastly, PBL enables students to tackle real-world problems, ultimately leading to students finding science more relevant and engaging, increasing their interest and becoming intrinsically motivated to learn. Addressing real-world problems also helps alienated and low-achieving students engage with the content. Furthermore, by focusing learning on meaningful goals, PBL can also foster a need-to-know attitude among students, as students become more motivated to strengthen their understanding about potential solutions to an issue they find meaningful. In an online setting, PBL can be implemented effectively by starting with a driving question. In reference to the Year 8 Science Victorian curriculum, some of Earth's resources are renewable, but others are non-renewable. We can create questions such as, how can switching to renewable energy lower someone's carbon footprint? Online resources and guest speakers can provide the necessary research and exploration. Collaboration and discussion can take place via platforms like Zoom and Google Classroom. Online tools and virtual labs can facilitate hands-on activities, and regular check-ins ensure students stay on track. Projects can be developed through online collaboration and presented virtually, maintaining the interactive and engaging nature of PBL. However, there are some limitations to PBL that must be considered. First, PBL often requires an extensive preparation time for teachers to efficiently design and implement projects. Additionally, projects can demand significant material resources where schools may have insufficient resources. Without adequate training, the quality of facilitation of PBL may differ in different classroom settings, ultimately affecting the consistency and effectiveness of student learning experiences. However, despite these challenges, PBL remains an effective approach for science education because it develops problem-solving skills, lifelong learning habits, effective collaboration, and intrinsic motivation to learn. Thank you. I'll now pass on to Rasika, who's going to be talking about assessments.
Thank you, Shah. Now I'm going to talk about assessments and how we can conduct assessments in the online environment. We'll be looking at both formative and summative assessments. Formative assessments will let us know how to change the lesson based on what the students are learning, and summative assessments would show us where the student is at the end of the lesson. Because we are in an online environment, there will be a number of challenges for the students with assessments. So we will have to find ways to overcome these challenges and to make sure that all the assessments that we are conducting are authentic and offer fair learning opportunities for all children. Formative assessments that I'm proposing are diagnostic tasks and game-based assessments. Diagnostic tasks are very important for us to understand where the student is at their learning and ensure that lesson is adjusted based on the information, and differentiation techniques are used to ensure all students' knowledge is tested. So creating multiple choice questions at the beginning of each lesson and exit cards at the end of each lesson are the main ones that I'm proposing for science lessons. This way we can understand where the student is at the beginning of the lesson and how much they have understood at the end of the lesson. Game-based assessments are also a very important tool. Students learn best when they enjoy learning, and game-based assessments can be a very big tool to encourage students to be involved in the lesson and further their understanding. Poor internet connection can be a big issue. Allowing time for students to connect before starting the assessment, and also ensuring the lessons available in Google Classroom or any other platform so they can access it later can be a good solution for this issue. Lack of interest. Making sure the student is rewarded for participation and doing well in the assessments can be one way of eliminating the lack of interest in the lesson. This assessments can be time consuming for teachers, especially with the technology. So having some background knowledge in technology or doing some personal development in technology would be one way of resolving this issue. Summative assessments that I'm proposing are project-based assessments. As science is a practical subject, it's important for the students to be able to demonstrate their knowledge with a project. So designing an experiment to test theory and presentation, individual and group, are the ones that I'm proposing for this. So lack of structure could be difficult for some of the students who are not fully motivated. Ensuring precise instructions are given and differentiate the requirement could help with this. Choice of the research may extend the lesson more than the teachers are ready for. So to ensure this, the projects need to be discussed prior to use and make sure that the student understand what they're required to do properly before starting a project is important. This can also be time consuming to evaluate due to the varied methods. Students should be given a rubric to ensure that they follow the guidelines precisely.
Thanks, Rasika. Differentiation is the process of ensuring the content of lessons is accessible to all students by considering individual student readiness, that's their ability to access and understand the content being provided, their interest, what areas excite them, what would they like to learn about more deeply, and their learning profile, which includes things like socioeconomic factors, cultural background, learning styles, and intelligences, per Tomlinson 2001. As Australian secondary school teachers, we have not only a moral obligation to differentiate our lessons, but also a legal obligation to do so. Differentiation is critical to funding success as teachers, especially within the science classroom. If we fail to appropriately differentiate our classes, we risk some students learning nothing at all, either through finding the content inaccessible or because they already have mastery of the topics at the level being taught, per Heilbronner 2013. Appropriately differentiated lessons allow all students to engage, learn, and find success in the learning outcomes. Challenging all students across all skill levels and learning profiles is one of the areas teachers struggle with most, per Parks 2019. So the more guidance we can provide our teachers for differentiating within the challenging online learning environment, the better. Project-based learning, which we've been looking at, is an area that lends itself particularly well to differentiation by student interest and differentiation by product outcome. Setting students a project on the difference between renewable and non-renewable energy sources allows them to focus on the area or areas within that interest them most. One student might compare and contrast coal plants with hydroelectric plants, whereas a student who's a big racing fan might look at petrol versus electric cars. Giving students options is an easy and effective way to differentiate by student interest, per Konevsky 2011. Project-based learning also lends itself well to differentiating by product, that is, what is being produced and submitted by the students. Where most students might be writing a scientific report, some may find it easier to present their information in a digital poster or an oral presentation accompanied by slides. We're wanting to make sure that our students learn about and can communicate some distinctions between renewable and non-renewable energy sources, and a student having low literacy skills that prevent them from writing up a wordy report shouldn't interfere with them reaching the learning outcome. One difficulty with differentiation when it comes to online learning specifically is the teacher can miss some of the telltale signs of disengagement that would be easy to spot in the classroom. If a student has their head on their desk, they're not engaging with an in-person lesson because they lack foundational knowledge, the teacher can give that student some extra needed context. This live feedback is not necessarily present for online learning. This difficulty can be mitigated through careful planning of a 3-level tiered approach, as described by the New South Wales Government 2022. The first tier is the on-level content, the task we want most students to achieve, and the second tier is a similar task but with further support for students who need it. This may involve extra scaffolding according to student readiness. And the third tier is a more advanced activity for students who may have already mastered the on-level content. By preparing content in these tiers, we prepare for varying degrees in student readiness, rather than having to adjust for them within the classroom or online learning environment. And with that, we'll move to our conclusion. Science education is critical in giving students an understanding of the world they live in and teaching them to solve problems, per Ferriera 2012. The problem solving taught in science lessons gives students crucial skills that they can use in all curriculum areas to better engage with new content, per Yeasey 2016. Thus, it's important we ensure our students continue to learn about the world they live in and develop these critical skills despite the challenges of remote learning. Shay, Rusika, and I have identified key pedagogical, assessment, and differentiation strategies that can help us in developing a successful distance learning environment. Thank you for your time.